Shalom, shalom, shalom. All praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, which is to say in the Paleo Hebrew, Yahweh, which is the name of our Heavenly Father, meaning He is, and that is who the world ignorantly calls God. Bahashim, which means in the name, Yahweh Shai, which means He is our salvation. And that is who the world also ignorantly calls Jesus, a so-called black man, who, by the way, only, and the emphasis is on the word only, came for the Israelites, all right? Now, what brings us to our discussion / topic this early morning is what? Fantasy versus reality, all right? Fantasy is something that isn't true, that's not based in reality, facts, all right? Versus reality, something that is true and not made up and is based solely upon facts, all right? Two different dichotomies, all right? And we have these two separate videos that's going to express just that. This first video is based in fantasy, okay? Also known as nostalgia, all right? How these Americans want that piece of time back where they could be an American, sit down at the table with your family, enjoy a conversation, and so on and so forth. That time is never coming back to this place. America, as you once knew it, is never going to be that again. All right? America would never be able to rewind the hands of time, if you will, and go back to that golden age. See? America won't be able to be healed. All right? And you got people that's trying to do just that. Revisit that time. Fantasy. Okay? Versus what's going to happen in the second video we're going to play you, which is what? Based on what? Reality. Okay? So let's let this first video play. This is a fantasy video, okay? Because America ain't going back to these times, man. All right? So without any further ado, let's let this video play. This is the first video of the fantasy world that America, these Americans would love to have back, but it will never come. So check this out. Come on now. All right, let's try it now.
In the hills of Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania, a familiar red roof catches the eye. Inside, the vinyl booths, Tiffany-style lamps, and yes, the salad bar you may remember from decades ago.
I mean, it's amazing the comments we have about, they have the red cups. Yes, we do.
Tim Sparks got his start working at a Pizza Hut that looked like this. He's now president of Dayland Corporation, which owns this franchise and more than 80 others around the country. They've redecorated many restaurants to rewind the clock.
It looks exactly like the one that I remember from when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's what we were after.
Some Pizza Hut classics are now top-performing locations. Customers show up for a piece of their childhood.
It just brings back memories.
To share with their own kids.
When you finally find something that tastes how you genuinely remember it tasting, like you can't let it go.
People come from 2 and 3 hours away, and I'm not making that up.
More restaurants are serving up nostalgia. Franchises like Burger King and KFC return to old-school logos and packaging in recent years. At Pizza Hut, they even brought back Pac-Man. But for Sparks, this is much more than a game. It's a mission to rebuild places where families can connect.
If we could get them in here as a family, they do tend to put their phones down and actually have conversations and speak with each other. I'm not going to tell you I know how to fix the world, but I do think that family is a good place to start.
He hopes to renovate more of his restaurants as long as he can find enough of those lamps.
They're hard to get?
Yeah, they're almost impossible to get.
A familiar taste,
Well, cheers.
Cheers, bro.
bringing people together.
Just like I remember it.
Again, Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania.
All right. So there you have it. Okay. Now we use the backdrop of a Pizza Hut story to relate to you the madness of this place and this fantasy world that they want to bring back. That good old time where they could sit down around the table, not worry about having the bills to be paid, just enjoy the time with your family. But that's not the case anymore, okay? Because why? We're moving forward towards this new world order, all right? Where you're not going to have the opportunity or be afforded that opportunity to have these memories, okay? Now, this second video that we're going to play is going to be what's really going on, all right? Fantasy versus reality. This is the reality of what's about to take place, all right? So give me 1 second while I cue this second video up. All right, this video right here is the reality of what's going on, okay? America won't be healed, all right? Only bad times ahead. See, we had the first video, which was a Pizza Hut backdrop of how this whole fantasy of, family time and going back to the American, classic golden age, being nostalgia and all that stuff is out the window, all right? We're going to go into what is coming, all right? Based on what? Reality. This is what's about to happen. So let's let this play and let's take it from there. Check this out.
Families are flooding back to food pantries across the country. In Baldwin Park, California, dozens of cars lined up Wednesday for a food drive co-hosted by the LA Regional Food Bank. In Pittsburgh, a pantry A.J. Owen started out of his front yard last fall has expanded into a program that will stay open through the summer.
We're going to do this until we can feed all the kids this summer. Nobody's going hungry this summer in Pittsburgh.
Americans in neighborhoods large and small are pitching in. Prices are rising faster than paychecks now. For the first time in 3 years, Wissam Youssef, a father of 5, first turned to a food pantry in Carrollton, Texas when his wife was out of work a year ago.
I always pick up the healthy food. Like example for this, the lentil here.
But he's had to keep coming.
So, to feed your family,
Yes.
Are you relying on a place like this now?
I could say 65%, yes.
65% of what you need is coming from a place like this?
Because at the end of the month, we kind of like now living check by check, you know what I mean?
Are you making difficult decisions right now at home on where you spend your money?
Of course, I have to look for the cheapest place now. Like sometime I never used to go to Dollar Tree. Now I go to Dollar Tree.
This section used to have all of our canned meat.
Casey McMahon showed us the empty shelves that usually hold canned chicken or tuna, protein sources that are in high demand. The average family that used to need help for 8 to 12 weeks, he says, now needs it for closer to 7 or 8 months.
So you noticed people relying on you not just for a month at a time to get through, but
Right.
a longer period of time.
Yeah, I think when folks think of food pantries, they think of an immediate crisis that brings someone to the doors. What we're seeing is a long-term crisis. Things are just not adding up at the end of the month.
All right, so that's the video based in reality of what's coming, okay? And although we're trying to, stick together in these neighborhoods and try to put their resources together, that ain't gonna last but for so long, okay? When this famine comes, and it will come, and it hits the land, especially here in America, you're gonna see neighbors are gonna turn against neighbors, all right? So it's all fine and dandy in the beginning, but wait till the resources really start to dwindle down, all right? That's when people are gonna really start to show their true colors, all right? So we got fantasy versus reality. Let's get a few precepts. All right, this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51 and verse 9. It reads, "We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go everyone into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies." See? So we in the time where it's too late, man. You can't heal this place, all right? For all this iniquity that it has done and it has completed for, it's time for it to be judged, okay? See, and that's what you Americans really don't grasp and understand the concept of. That the Lord has allowed this place to build up a track record, and now it's time to pay for its sins, okay? Let's read it again. Matter of fact, let's go up to verse 7. This is Jeremiah 51 and verse 7. It says, Babylon hath been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. And that's insane and literally, okay? They're both literally mad at this place, this whore, and they've gone insanely mad of all these ideologies that this place has pushed off onto all the parts of the earth. Primarily through what? Christianity. It says, therefore the nations are mad. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her. Take balm for her pain. See? So go ahead and take those 1990 commercials and 1990 nostalgia store memorabilia, Pizza Hut, Blockbuster Video, KFC, Burger King. You could try to turn back the hands of time as much as you want. It ain't gonna feel no different once that famine hits. See, that's the thing. The Lord deals in reality. You may try to cover up or take balm for this place and turn back the hands of time and try to be nostalgia and feel like you're back in the 90s and the early 2000s when things was a lot better than they are now. But the Lord has a funny way of snapping you back into it, and he's getting ready to bring that famine to the land. All right? It says, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her. Take balm for her pain. If so be, she may be healed. See? If so be, she may be healed. See? All those nostalgia restaurants and whatever else type of cars you want to drive. I want to get me a old school, early 2000 car because I know they get ready to do away with you being able to drive a car, and they're going to have cars that have kill switches beginning in 2027 and facial recognition and all that stuff. Well, guess what? That's just it. You're not going to be able to offset reality. And even further than that, you're not going to be able to offset prophecy. See, this is the thing about reality, okay? It's dealt in what? Facts, all right? The fact of the matter is Babylon ain't going to get any better, okay? This is what we know in the spirit, and we know this just by the way things are going in the real world, okay? Gas prices are steady climbing. Inflation is steady rising, all right? And you think that by making some type of nostalgia, memorabilia, restaurant, that's going to help ease the pain? No. That's why it says, if so be, she may be healed. But then it goes on to say in the next verse that what? Verse 9, Jeremiah 51 and 9. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. See? So all that you're doing is for what? Nothing. Okay? You're not going to, as you said, save the world, man, because America ain't going to be saved. All right? Her sins have reached to the sky. All right? And we're going to get that in Revelation 18, Lord's willing. It says, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go, everyone, into his own country. Why? For her judgment reacheth unto the heaven. All right? Reacheth unto heaven. Now let's go to that Revelation in 18 and let's read that. This is the book of Revelation chapter 18 and verse 5, it reads, for her sins have reached unto heaven. See, that's exactly what we're reading in Jeremiah 51, the 9th verse. It says what? And the Most High have remembered her iniquities. See, the Lord ain't going to forget everything you did to his people, his chosen people, man. All right? Under this wicked rulership, this Edomite rulership, this place, America, has exceeded wickedness, okay? And now it's time for it to be what? Judged, okay? So you're not going to be able to finagle or weasel your way out of this by turning back the hands of time and making a nostalgia feel for, whoever wants to stop in my restaurant and get that 2000 early 90s feel back when we had a booming economy and you could buy a house for less than 100,000 and the economy was doing well. That's over with, man. Okay, that fantasy that you looking to recapture, like they say, lightning in a bottle, ain't coming back. All right, we based on what? Reality. And the reality of the matter is that this place is only going to get worse. Because why? The Lord has already ordained it to. So it says, for her sins, which is what? The transgression of the law. And this place here is known, as we read in Jeremiah 51 and 9, as being that golden cup. All right. This is the wicked. All right. America, the United States of America, has been the golden cup in Yahweh's hand, man. This place has been the embodiment of what wickedness is. All right. You have everything and anything you can do that's contrary to the word here in Babylon the Great, and there will be no consequences for your actions. Man on man, woman on woman, all right? You name it, all right? Any and everything under the sun that goes against this word, you can do it here in America and there will be no consequences, okay? So guess what? The Lord is about to bring judgment, okay? The Lord himself, Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, is about to bring judgment to this place, okay? And part of that judgment is indeed famine. And we're going to read it, okay, Lord willing. So it says, for her sins has reached unto heaven, and the Most High have remembered her iniquities. Reward her, Babylon, America, even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works. And the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. See? So the Lord has prepared a specific judgment for this place, all right? And that judgment is what? Thermonuclear missiles, all right? And he's going to have the other nations prepared to bring out that judgment on this whore, America, okay? So ain't no nostalgia feeling, trying to escape the pains that's coming to this place by trying to rewind the hands of times. That's not going to get it done, okay? Because why? The Lord has already sanctioned this place to be judged, and that's the time and the era that we're moving into, is this place being judged, all right? Fantasy versus reality, okay? So we would go back to Jeremiah 51 and 9. Now with that having been read in Revelation 18, and let's read this again. Jeremiah chapter 51 and verse 9. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go, everyone into his own country, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven. See? And is lifted up even to the skies. We just read it in Revelation 18, 5 and 6. So now it's time for her to be judged. Now we're going to transition over to some of those judgments, and we're going to go to the Apocrypha, and I got it lined up here with the famine scriptures, because this is part of her judgment. And I want to read this in 2 Ezra 15 and 5. It reads, Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. See, one of those plagues is what? Famine. And when it hits America, it's going to hit America the hardest, because why? you Americans are, for the most part, solely relying on the system to provide for you for everything, all right? You got Uber this, Uber that, DoorDash this, DoorDash that, Lyft this, Lyft that. See, you've been so dependent on a system that when it's removed from you or even partially removed from you, you're not going to know how to cope or deal with it, okay? And these elites, they know that, okay? That's why they're giving you all this comfort of technology, because they want you so weaned off of being independent that you won't have any choice but to depend on what's coming down the pipe, which is that mark spoken of in Revelation 13, okay? And they know you're going to take that by proxy because you're not going to have any other choice. You don't know how to plant. You don't know how to be self-sufficient. All you know how to do is pick up a phone, order this, order that. You don't know how to go without anything. So you're prime. You're ready for what's coming down the pipe, whether it's an orchestrated famine or whether it happens naturally. All right? It says 2 Ezra 15:5. Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world. But one thing we do know is the Lord that's allowing it to happen. Says the sword, famine, death, and destruction. Fantasy versus reality. 2 Ezra 15:49. I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence, to waste thy houses with destruction and death. See? Fantasy versus reality. Okay? And the matter of the fact is that the reality is going to be a lot more harsh than the fantasy. Okay? 2 Ezra 16:18. It says the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great deaths. Okay? This is what we're in. We're just in the early stages, just the beginning, okay? We seeing it coming over the horizon, but it hasn't fully manifested to the point where now it's impacting you in your everyday walk of life. Once it gets to that point, then that's when you're going to see neighbor against neighbor, as the scriptures say, okay? You're going to see those pantries going to start shutting their doors, all right? And telling you that we don't got nothing else for you, because why? They got it there, but they don't want to give it to you because they got to take care of their own. See? In a time of plentiness, they can tell you we're taking care of our neighborhood because why? They think they still got it. See? Even in that, it's a little bit of fantasy. Okay? But once the reality fully kicks in and sets in, and it's every man for themselves, it's a whole new layout. Okay? And that's what's coming. So it says the beginning of sorrows, 2 Ezra 16:18, and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear. See, we're just in the early stages of all this. We're in the early stages of what? Rumors of wars, okay? But soon it's fin to actually pop off, okay? So it says the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? See? And the elect, those that are fighting to endure to the end, know what to do. We're going to hunker down and call on our powers, okay? Yahweh wa Yahweh Shai, that strong tower. It says, 2 Ezra 16:19, behold, famine and plague, tribulation, anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. See? So even with these things on the horizon, our people still don't want to get right. They still choose to live in that fantasy world, man. See? So when the shit hits the fan, you can't feel sorry for them, man. Okay? Because they want that nostalgia feeling. They want to party like it's 1999, all right? Even though it's 2020-something. 6 if you want to be, according to Edom's calendar, all right? But they still want to go like it's 2019. pre, C19. And that's what they want. They want that nostalgia feeling. That's why I use that Pizza Hut video as a backdrop, okay? Because our people, they want that nostalgia feeling, that fantasy of going back before, the way things were before this whole, 2020 pandemic, all right? But it's never going to go back. And that was the time that you should see that these things that happen are for what? An amendment for you to turn back and to repent. But our people won't get it, see? So it says, behold, famine and plague, tribulation, anguish are sent as scourges for amendment, right? Because during that whole 2020 campaign, what was there a lack of? Water, tissue paper, but this time when it hits for real, it's going to be a lack of what? Food and other natural resources, all right? See? But see, back then, 2020 should have been a wake-up call, all right? But now Jake just don't want to acknowledge, all right, their transgression. They want to continue to live in that fantasy world. So guess what? The Lord's going to hit them with that reality, all right? When those missiles come, it's going to snap them out of that fantasy world that they're living in. But by that time, it's going to be way too late. So it says, 2 Ezra 16:21, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. Even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. See? Fantasy versus reality, man. Okay? Ain't gonna be no, I got this 1999 vibe Pizza Hut restaurant and we're serving a buffet for $4.99. You ain't gonna get that, man. And even if you do get it, it's only going to be temporarily, and then you're gonna think to yourself, things is to be in good, good standards. Okay, so even if you do go to a Pizza Hut nostalgia restaurant and they got the cups, the plates, the ambiance to match it, and they may even have the menu with the same prices, all right? And you're gonna think to yourself that it's good times, but then that reality is gonna snap you back into it, and you're gonna go out and get some gas or something like that, and you're gonna know we back in 2026, man. So let's read it again. It says 2 Ezra 16:21, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth. See? You may be able to go into a nostalgia Pizza Hut or KFC and Burger King. They may even have a Monday night nostalgia menu price where you can get, a $4.99 buffet at Pizza Hut or, a Whopper for 99 cents or something like that. And you may think to yourself, hey, man, one step at a time. We're getting back to the way things were. It says what? Victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. See? Then what happens? And even then shall evils grow upon earth. That's the reality. Sword, famine, and great confusion, because you ain't going to know what's happening. All right? See, you thought things were turning back. You thought that Babylon could be healed. You thought that balm, that ointment, was enough to heal Babylon. If so be, she may be healed. But it ain't. See? That's when that reality is going to kick in. It says 2 Ezra 16:22. We're just going through the famine scriptures, which is the reality. For many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. See? We got fantasy versus reality. All right. It says 2 Ezra 16:34, and the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine. See? Fantasy versus reality. Okay. It's only so long you can hold off the inevitable. Okay. All right. You can try to make this thing as non-threatening as you want. You can make it as nostalgic as you want, but it's never going to offset or throw off prophecies, and it's never going to offset or throw off the reality of things, all right? And the reality is that shit's only going to get worse. It says, 2 Ezra 16:46, for strangers shall reap their fruits and spoil their goods, overthrow their houses and take their children captives. For in captivity and famine shall they get children. Okay? So it's not going to be anything sweet or fantastic or fantasy about what's coming. Okay? Only what? Based in reality. All right? And the reality is, it's finna get rough out here, all right? And if the Lord isn't dealing with you, good luck on trying to maneuver or navigate your way through what's coming of this maze of Jacob's trouble, okay? Because it says in Amos, it says, as you escape from a bear and what? A lion met you. See? You ain't gonna have no rest in this up and coming tribulation that's coming to try the whole earth. And we're just in the early stages. So you may be able to escape a portion of it, but at the end, you're going to get it. All right? Let's read that in the book of Amos. This is the book of Amos. I believe it's chapter 5. And is it 19? This is Amos 5:19. It reads, as if a man did flee from a lion and a bear met him. See, this is what it's going to be like during Jacob's trouble. All right, you made it past one phase or one part just to run into something even more deadlier. Okay, this is why it's imperative for you to have the Lord fighting your battles, but the only way he's going to fight for you is if you strive for the truth unto the end, unto death, okay? You can't be out here in this fantasy world of yours thinking because a judgment isn't expediently brought upon you that you can continue to sin willfully, okay? You got to snap into reality, all right? And leave that fantasy world behind, man, okay? Because the Lord don't deal with fantasies, okay? He deals with realities, all right? And the reality of the matter is, unless you turn back and repent and seek Yahweh while he may be found, he ain't going to seek you or look to help you when you need to be found, okay? So it says, Amos 5:19, as if a man did flee from a lion and a bear met him. If that wasn't worse, it says, or went into the house and leaned his hand on the wall and a serpent bit him. See? You ain't going to have no rest when you constantly on the run in this time like none other, Jacob's trouble, unless the Lord is fighting your battle for you. It says, verse 20, shall not the day of Yahweh be darkness and not light, even very dark and no brightness in it? See? So we're talking about some very dark and gloomy days, man. And unless the Lord is dealing with you, you're not going to make it, especially here in Babylon the Great, the United States of America. You won't make it, all right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it unless you're of the elect. That's the only way out, all right? Other than that, you're just going to become missile food, or how the scriptures call it, stubble, all right? So shall not the day of Yahweh be darkness and not light, even very dark and no brightness in it? See? So this is why we fear the Lord, man, all right? Because we deal in reality, and we know the Lord will jack you up. See? Jesus is fantasy. Yahweh Shai is reality, all right? And the reality of it is, if you're not of the elect, you're not going to make it, okay? No matter what you try to do, no matter how much nostalgia you try to turn back the hands and remember the good old days and all of that, when prices was this and prices was that, and you can get a house for this and you could buy a car for that, and the food was better, All that shit was ages ago, okay? Esau gave you that little bit of time just so he can get you more reliant on this system and then remove it from you and have you like a fiend. When he gets that first hit, he sucks on that glass, you know what, and he gets addicted to it. Now he has you coming back over and over. Well, that's what Esau Edom did. He got you hooked on that glass, you know what, what you put in your mouth, and it's a pipe, all right, which is his system, his AI, his technology. He got you hooked on it. He introduced you to what? Smartphones, iPhones, Androids, tablets, all right? Now you can't do your work, your career, or whatever else without it, okay? And he knows that. So all he has to do is remove it from you, and like a fiend, you're going to come looking for that next hit. And he knows eventually those hits are going to lead to what? The ultimate fix, which is going to be that what? RFID microchip, okay? Fantasy versus reality, okay? This is what's coming down the pipe, all right? Whether you believe it or not, that's really besides the point. It's what the word of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai says. And Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai says this is going to happen. This is going to happen. His word will not come back void. Isaiah 55 and verses 8, I believe, 5 through 8. So this is where we at. We're based in reality, man. All right. And reality is the Lord is getting ready to jack this place up. All right. For the Israelites' sake. All right. He's about to take Esau Edom out of power, man. So you can be as nostalgic as you want. It ain't going to help. It ain't going to plead your cause. The Lord is going to destroy this place. All right. And we can't wait. So let's go ahead and close out with 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. It reads, be sober. That's part of having what? Reality. Based in reality. Be vigilant. That's also based in reality. Why? Because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. Those that are based in fantasy, okay? Those that are waiting for things to go back to the way they were. Those that are waiting on America to be healed. That's who the devil's going to devour, man. That's who Esau Edom, the so-called self-proclaimed white man, is going to devour, okay? Those that haven't been able to differentiate between fantasy and reality, all right? Those that are still living in 1999, 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably all the way as late as 2019, all right? Those are the ones that the devil is going to devour because why? They still waiting to go back. They still waiting to somehow see America turn back the hands of time and go back to where they can do what? Go out and party, all right? See? And guess what? The devil knows that. This devil knows that. So he's going to allow you to go and do certain things, but then eventually that time, which is not on his hand, is going to force him to come and go with it, all right? And reality is going to set in. Famine, job layoffs, higher gas prices, okay? All of this is at the doorstep, knocking, all right? And this is why we're telling you to do what? Let's read it one more time, and then we'll close out. 1 Peter 5 and 8, to do what? Be sober. Snap into reality. Snap back into it. Be vigilant. Stay watching, okay? Why? Because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Those that are living in a fantasy world, all right? So that's going to pretty much be it. We're going to wrap it up. With that being said, pray someone was edified through this lesson. And until the next time, if it be the Lord's will, Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, stay strong, stay in the faith. We're almost home. Shalom. Peace.